The Supreme Court on Thursday restrained courts across the country to admit or pass order in any fresh suit or plea seeking a survey of religious places until the next hearing. It's a very important development that has taken place. And I'll just come to the point. The ruling came on the petitions challenging the constitutional validity of the Places of Worship Act. So let's take a look at what Apex Court had said. The matter is sub judice. No suit should be registered or proceedings undertaking until further order. No new suit related to places of worship can be registered while SC hears pleas challenging the act. In ongoing cases, court can't pass any effective interim or final orders, including orders for surveys. Civil court cannot run a race with the Supreme Court. Union government must file its counter affidavit regarding petitions challenging act in 4 weeks. Centre's counter affidavit must be uploaded online. Now, let me tell you what the Places of Worship Act is. The Narasimha Rao government introduced the act, prohibits the conversion of any place of worship, maintains its religious character as it existed on August 15, 1947, abates pending suits regarding religious conversions before August 15, 1947, excluded Ayodhya from the Act of scope, historical or archaeological monuments excluded, aims to uphold secularism by preventing disputes over places of worship. Now, exception to the Places of Worship Act. Ancient or historical monuments or archaeological sites, disputes settled between parties before Act's commencement. The Act does not apply to Ram Janambhoomi, as I said. Pleas challenging the Act. Takes away rights of Hindus, Jains, Buddhists and Sikhs to restore destroyed places of worship. Violates principle of secularism and rule of law. Bars right to approach courts, denying judicial remedy. Violates right to practice and profess religion and administer places of pilgrimage. Prevents reclaiming religious properties misappropriated by others. Challenges constitutional validity of section 2, 3, 4 of the Act. An arbitrary retrospective cut-off date of August 15, 1947. Arbitrary. Eighth, disputes over encroachment by invaders cannot be addressed by an act. Places are controversial because invaders destroyed them. But on the other hand, pleas in support of the act are also there. Their argument is protect secularism, a basic structure of the constitution, supports public order, fraternity, unity and secularism of the nation. Suits to reclaim temples destroyed by the invaders represent retrogression. Cites 2019 Ayodhya judgment which upheld 1991 Act. Now facts. Disputes that have reached court. Qutub Minar, Jama Masjid, Sambhal, Atala Mosque, Jaunpur, Jama Masjid, Mangaluru, Bhojshala, Dhar, Shamsi Masjid, Badaun, and Shahi Eidgah Mosque, Mathura, Jama Masjid, Fatehpur Sikri, Ajmer Sharif, Rajasthan. My questions are, will repealing the act open the Pandora box? Is it possible? If the act is repealed, will it open the Pandora box? That's one. But my second question is, what will happen to historical wrongs? Third question is, why do community initiatives fail? And the fourth is, when will Centre break its silence? I am joined by Ratan Sarda, author and political analyst, and advocate Nikhil Jain on this. First, I'll go to Mr. Sarda. Now the matter is in Supreme Court. The cases can be filed, not registered, surveys will not be taken. Supreme Court will have a final view. So my question is, do you think that the historical issues, frozen conflicts, are best resolved by community actions which have failed in India, or they require parliamentary and judicial intervention in this case, because it had created a sort of a effect in multitude. Number of other cases have come up.
See, first of all, Karthik, I must congratulate the secular and Islamist lobby for being able to stall every attempt by Hindus to reclaim their rightful place in the history. The Supreme Court itself had said that you cannot change the nature of the place of worship, but you can check the nature of the place of worship. That is why the surveys were allowed. Today, the Supreme Court has gone against very judgment. Now, I will be very blunt. This denial of history continuously before independence, when the RN religion theory put in by the British was thrown at us, and even we were the native Hindus were called invaders. Then there was refusal of Hindu reclamation of their heritage by Nehru denying Somnath temple. After that, there was continuous repression of Hindus in the case of Ram Mandir. They were denied. Fake affidavits were given. Fake history was given to people, and Mughals were made to look like roses, and Hindus were thrown as stupid, tribalistic, ignorant masses who only knew how to run caste and how to kill women. From that, when the Hindus have woken up and slowly trying to assert their own tradition, their history, and their own rights, we find the entire cabal of secular leftists trying to jump onto them and stop any reconciliation in history. In the case of Ram Mandir, the local population, the local trusts were ready to give the temple. It was the leftist cabal who persuaded the Muslims to go ahead and go for a case. And in the case, Congress continuously delayed the case, gave wrong affidavits. When the Vishnu Parishad gave all the evidence that was required, they ran away from the meeting, never came back to the meetings to take the evidence. Now, as far as this particular case is concerned, the way it is going on, I would say with a very heavy heart that you are sitting on a volcano of Hindus' resentment because they've seen last 80 years they've been denied every kind of right through various legal loopholes and various political parties. And now the simple urge to reclaim their own land. You talk of a place of worship act. Gyanvapi mosque had an entire area for worship of the temple by the women, and they were denied the right in 1993. Who changed the nature of the place of worship act? Sambal had a place where Hindus went and worshipped. They were thrown out. AS was thrown out. It was an ASA monument. They were thrown out. The masjid became huge by the aggressive local population. What has government done about that? So somebody can change that place of worship by sheer force, by act as a force, and Hindus cannot react to that, and government will not budge about that. They will not speak about that, and then Hindus will taught the lesson of the histories. You just talked about keeping peace and order, and also talking about peace. Are Hindus the only one to preserve secularism?
May I interrupt you here?
Just let me finish this line.
Okay.
So Hindus are asked to preserve secularism. Nobody else has any responsibility for any act. Only Hindus are responsible for peace. Nobody is responsible for peace. You can talk of Gujarat riot. You cannot talk of Godhra fire of the train. That is the problem.
Okay. Okay. First, I'll take the opening comment from Nikhil Jain. But my principal question is that why has Centre been silent on this issue? Why hasn't it clarified its position? First to you.
Me?
Yes, Nikhil. Yes, right? Yes, absolutely. To you, Nikhil Jain.
Karthikeya, I think the center has been very evidently silent on this for the simple reason that they've been trying to do indirectly what they can't do directly, that it would not be very pretty picture for the central government to go in the Supreme Court and state on affidavit that we are willing to repeal the Places of Worship Act. They're not willing to modify the act or repeal it in the parliament. Instead, what they want is to use a loophole in the act that creates an exception for ASI protected monuments, have their people file cases, pressurize the trial courts. And I don't have any qualms in saying that in this country, across states, across governments, trial courts have been known to succumb to pressure. This is what happens when the powers that be try to put their hammer on the trial courts, which is why you have high courts and Supreme Court which are constitutionally independent. What we're seeing now after the 2024 Lok Sabha election, when the Modi government has come to fore again, that all of these cases which were filed 2 years ago, 3 years ago, are suddenly being taken up by trial courts. Suddenly surveys are being ordered. Now, Ratan Chadha ji and people from the BJP would argue that no, this is in pursuance to a Supreme Court order that did allow a survey. But the point is that courts in the country do not exist for academic exercises. Go to universities, do your researches there. The Supreme Court or the High Court or any court for that matter does not exist for academic activities. If there is a law that explicitly prohibits the change in the character of a place of worship, what is the point of determining whether that place was a mandir or a masjid or a Jain temple or a Buddhist stupa 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago? See, India has had a very complex religious history, from unorganized indigenous customs of worship and practice to 2,500 years ago to the or more organized religions of Buddhism
So
and
Nikhil,
Jainism.
Nikhil, I have
and
a question
Hinduism.
for you also. I have a question for you also. These are frozen conflicts. So let me ask you, most of the conflicts across the world are decided and settled by communities. Do you think a legalitarian action would resolve issues? Do you think an act of parliament can resolve issues?
See, Kartikeya, it had by and large resolved these issues. When the act came into being in 1991, we did not see any violent movements for any masjid to be converted into a mandir or any Hindu mandir to be converted into a Buddhist mandir, Buddhist stupa, Jain mandir. We did not see anything of that kind. It is only after the BJP's coming back into power with a full majority that we are seeing this Pandora's box being reopened. I don't think the average Hindu has any interest in trying to dig up a mosque and trying to claim that there is a mandir there, whether there was or whether there wasn't. What people want is to look forward for jobs, for employment, for the country to preserve the heritage that already exists. There are thousands and thousands of temples in this country that are centuries and millennia old. The central government is least bothered to have the ASI restore them properly, make them into tourist places, make them into pilgrimage sites. But what they're more interested in is to attack mosques that already exist. I'm not going to deny that there exist mosques in this country that have been built either on the ruins or by modifying a Hindu temple. Certainly there have been. But at the same time, there also have been Hindu temples that have been built on the ruins of Jain temples and Buddhist temples. And that just shows the very complex history of religion in the country. We can't keep on going back 500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, trying to ascertain what kind of character a place of worship had. Let's all live in peace.
Okay,
we have enough masjids and mandirs.
I'll take a cue from what you have said. I'll just take a cue from what you have said. I'll not create a new question. Who is an average Hindu? Are we saying that the average Hindu is unconnected to to the places of worship? To you, Dr. Sharda, how do we define an average Hindu? Who speaks for the Hindu?
Can I just?
When the average
this is you spoke. Yes, this is
when the average Hindu speaks, the entire secular Islamist cabal insults it, tells them you don't know what is history, you don't know, you are unwashed, uncouth millions who don't know how to live civilized, their civilized society. That is what has been thrown at them right from Ram Mandir time. And at Ram Mandir time, you saw millions on the road. Are you saying they were not average Hindus? Are you saying that Hindus have no sense of history? We have folk histories all along, and this Jain Buddhist temple myth has been deliberately created as red herring by Mr. Jain. I strongly resent it. And if at all he wants academic exercise, go ahead and read Hindu temples, what happened to them at Sitaram Goel, where thousands of temples have been proven to be mosques have been proven to be temples by their own Islamic history. Those things are written on the top of mosque itself, how they were made. But we will deny that also. So for the sake of peace, we will say that if the civilization dies, what do you do with the country? Tell me, what happened to Iran, where the history was totally demolished? What is happening in Turkey? A church was converted to mosque, then again to church, then again to museum, and just by government fiat, Hagia Sophia mosque was converted to mosque. Did any of the secular brigade ever speak against it? Did they speak against the demolition of temples in Kashmir? Did they not deny the exodus of Kashmiri Hindus? So by denial, by creating red herrings of Jain, Buddhist, etc., go to Ajanta Ellora, check out the common existence of Jain, Buddhist and Hindu temples. Don't try to deviate. Question is whether Hindus, Sanatan Hindus, have a right to reclaim their place of worship, which they were denied for thousands of years. The temples are demolished again and again, very vividly described by their own people. And I again request you to read what happened to Hindu temples, the Sitaram Goel, and then come for debates. Don't say it's an academic exercise. It's an exercise written in blood. It's a seeping wound of the civilization. By trying to cover it up, we are only going to deepen the wound. The wounds will become septic, cancerous, and you will not know where to go. Do you want to come to that particular situation? Will you keep on joking about Hindus' rights? Will you keep on joking about the place of worship?
Dr.
Telling
Sharda,
them go to hell, it's already gone. You'll keep on talking of Hindu Shivling as being Pavara.
Mr. Sharda, speak against Pavara? I'm falling short of time, sir. I'm really falling short of time. Nikhil, since he has spoken, I'll give you 30 seconds to close your argument. I've really fallen short of time. 30 seconds to you, Nikhil. I know it does not suffice, but in context of equal representation, finish your argument.
What Mr. Shada says is that Hindus have been denied their rights since eternity. I really don't know where he's coming from when more than 500 of the 565 princely kings and princes that we had were Hindus, when pretty much every prime minister and president of this country has been a Hindu, when pretty much every chief minister outside Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir has been a Hindu, many of them from the Congress party, many of them from the BJP and other parties. What he's talking about is how can we let the civilization die, sir? Nobody is asking you to do that. In fact, I'm asking you to restore the civilization in terms of temples that are lying in ruins. Nobody has denied the existence of temples being converted to mosques. That has certainly been there. I've said this on this very debate, and everybody has been going around saying that. So far, last point, the Buddhist and the Jain temple thing, that's not a red herring. The Qutub Minar petition, in fact, Qutub Minar was made on Jain temples. But me as a Jain, as a Jain, am not saying that let's break down the Qutub Minar.
Okay, fair enough.
I believe Hindu Jain are same. You don't.
Can I politely say thank you? Okay, can I politely say thank you to both of you? I am really fallen short of time. Thank you both of you. Thank you, Mr. Shada. Thank you, Mr. Jain. My takeaway is conflicts cannot be frozen by force of law. This is my personal belief. They cannot be frozen by force of law. There must be a way to address societal concerns, but it does not mean that present generation gets burdened by the weight of history. Let me again repeat, there must be a way to address societal concerns, but it does not mean that the present generation gets burdened by the weight of history. Thank you for watching On Point. That's all for tonight. See you tomorrow at the same time. Good night.